I went from going to school and then just having to write like creative novels and then there's teaching us about shapes like this is a circle, this is a triangle. And I came to Taiwan, I went to elementary school. And the first thing they had us do was like, okay students, do you all remember the multiply table? I thought you guys should remember it by now. 9 times 9 is 81. And I was like, what? You can multiply?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like just a big culture shock because in like Asian culture we're like very like math and like calculation heavy.
You're tuning into the Fox and Burger podcast, where we bring you closer to the Asian side of the furry fandom, one episode at a time. I'm your host, Michael the Matcha Fox, and today we're going back to Taiwan with our friend Jting. In this episode, we talked about what it's like running a small online business on Etsy. We also discussed the best yakiniku places to eat in Taichung and the differences between growing up in the US and in Taiwan. We're excited to be back in Taiwan to talk with our friend Jting. So sit back, relax, snack on some pig's blood cake, and enjoy the episode. Okay, so welcome Jting to the podcast.
Hello, I'm Jting F, or you can call me J.
Wow, so do you actually go by J?
Yeah, most of my friends call me J, but if you're online, usually people call me JF, since it's like abbreviation of
right.
Jting F.
Gotcha. Like, man, it's like, I think we met each other at this huge, like, for me, last year, the huge dinner one. I mean, the one that was, like, super loud, and Burger was there, too, sitting with us. But I don't think we had a chance to, like, properly interview until, like, basically now.
Yeah, life's busy, and there was, like, so much people there, like, we had to, like, kind of, like, shout out to, like, cheer each other, so, like, we really couldn't, like, talk that much either.
And we just missed you at Infernity. Like, me and Burger were both there, but I guess, like, we forgot to message each other. Whoops. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I totally should have messaged you. We could have met up. Oops.
So Jting is a YouTuber. I mean, there's so much to say. Like, you've got over, like, 100K subs on YouTube. You've got over 30K followers on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken. You've made over, like, 2,000 sales on Etsy. And you've got a Patreon. You got a business. We'll get into that later. I think like before, we get deep into the podcast, let's just start with the basic questions. So tell us your name, your persona, and where you live.
Sure. You know how you're in school and it's like the first day there and the teacher's like, oh, we're going to do introductions. And then you're like, who am I? What do I do? I like fruit. And it's like, it's actually hard to like think of something interesting about you when you have to like speak on it at the spot.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, my name, like, you just call me J or like Jting. The F is there because like at the first I was like, okay, I'm a furry, so this is my furry account. Gotta add an F in there somewhere. That's where the AIM F came from, in case anyone was wondering.
All right. What about the J and the Ting?
Jting is kind of the abbreviation of my name, but I don't want to dox myself like too much, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you ever ordered something from me before, it actually has my real name on it.
Oh,
so like,
okay.
Oops, so...
Gotcha.
Yep. And I guess my persona would be, I guess 2 of them. One of them would be like my protogen. Their name is like Spectrum. They're the one with like the glowy wings and stuff. And the other one would be my cat, which is like the black one. Technically, the protogen is like more of a OC, and the cat is more like the persona.
The cat is like what I'm seeing right now on like Telegram. Your profile picture, is that your cat, or is that not your cat?
No, that's not mine. That's some random person's photo that I stole.
Oh my god,
with
the Taiwan
as my
beer.
profile picture.
Oh no, you only just have like 10 photos of them.
I stole 10 photos from them.
From someone.
No, that's totally me.
Fursuit stealer. No, like, I mean, that's kind of cool. So like, yeah, like we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like the difference between like an OC and a persona. So you're thinking that you're more cat-like, I guess.
Yeah, like, I guess like, all cats are introverts, and I like the color black. So like, you know what? Cat black. This is me.
Yeah, cat black.
Totally makes sense.
And where are you based right now?
Well, currently I'm in Taiwan, in like Taichung, which is like the middle part of Taiwan.
Yep.
And if you want to know exactly where I'm based, you can order something from me because my address is also on there. I don't have a PO box. Please don't send bombs to me.
Shameless plugs. Buy
Please
stuff.
Don't send bombs to me.
you've got an interesting background. And so, I mean, we can just get into the questions. From my understanding, well, actually, sorry, like before you even get to that, like, how did you get into the fandom? Oh, I almost missed that one.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's probably similar to how every furry gets into fandom, which is like when you're like in like middle school or something and you're just looking around on the internet that has like everything on it and you suddenly like you clicked on the wrong thing. It's like, wow, that looks so cool. And like at the time I was like very into like World of Warcraft and stuff and like
Oh, wow.
fantasy settings. And like, come on, if you're in a fantasy world that doesn't exist, why would you
Yeah.
want to be like a human? That's like the thing you already are. You might as well be something like cool. Like
Yeah.
you're in a
Yeah.
fantasy world, you might as well be like a wolf person or a cow person or whatever. And you can have like cool abilities. So it's like, yeah, I just really like the like aesthetic of it, and it's like it plays into the fantasy world thing well.
Yeah. So like you were really into like the anthros from World of Warcraft.
Well, not specifically. Like, I guess I was just into the idea of like things that are like cool and not human, and World of Warcraft just happened to be the thing I was like playing a lot at the time. There's also a
Sure.
bunch of like web comics and stuff I was really into at the time. Like, that was a time when all the like cool old school like furry web comics were out, like just starting and stuff.
About like when would you say you joined the fandom though?
I think that depends on like what your definition of being in the fandom is. Because
Correct.
if the definition is like, okay, you're like interested in stuff that's like anthropomorphic, then I guess that would be like, oh, then that's like since I was like middle school or like pretty young. But if your definition is like if you're actually like interacting with like other people that are also into it, then I guess fairly recently, maybe like
3 years?
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like honestly I didn't even know there was really a fandom of people like doing stuff or like going to cons and stuff. I just randomly stumbled upon some YouTube videos and I was like, oh, this convention thing is in Taiwan. This is where I live and like
Yep.
there's actually people going. So it's like, oh, okay. And then I like started looking into more of it and just looked up videos and stuff. I was like, ooh, this is kinda cool.
What was your first convention? Like FurryCon, I should say.
It was actually one that happened in like I think it's in Kaohsiung. It's like the south part of Taiwan. It's
Tea
like called
Party?
like Furry Tea Party. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Like back in 2020 or
Yeah, it was about like I think 3 years ago. I brought my first protogen over.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep, long time ago.
Back in 2020, I think I was still in Texas. I didn't come back to Taiwan until like later. So I went to like when I came back to Taiwan in 2020, it was October. So I made it just in time for Furmeet in 2020. It was like the only FurCon going on in the world like in that month. But yeah, like have you been to like a lot of tea parties ever since 2020? Because I'm trying to remember if I saw you.
Actually, no. I've been to the one in like 2020, and I think I've been to the one last year, and that's kind of it. Since it's like kind of far away, and it's not like a huge one.
Yeah, well, you're closer. You're closer to Tea Party than me. I'm in Taipei, so I had to spend a little bit of money. I always take the HSR to go to Kaohsiung because I can't stand like long train rides. But anyway, yeah, I was saying earlier that you have an interesting background because if I'm not mistaken, like you were born in the U.S., you spent like your like early childhood there, and then later you moved to Taiwan. So I mean, you're bilingual, right? Like from my understanding, you're perfectly bilingual. You can speak Chinese and English, and you have like this sort of like background that kind of straddles between two cultures. Can you tell us more about like if you're able to tell us more about like growing up in the U.S. Like what was it like for you?
Yeah, I guess I would consider myself like bilingual or bicultured or whatever people would say about it. But
Sure.
the thing I most remember because I came from the U.S. to Taiwan when I was like 10 or so. So actually, like when I was there, I was like fairly young.
Right.
And I guess the biggest things I would remember when I was still there would be like the difference between like education.
Yeah.
When it was US, it was like elementary school. I would remember us going to school and the teacher, the first thing they would have us do there was to like start writing our own like little novel thing. They just had this like gave us a bunch of papers and like, okay, it's time to write your novel. And then like everyone would start to make up a story about something and then like we would like grade each other's stories So we would like get someone else's story when we had to give them like a grade or something. It was just very like I guess free, and like everyone was like very encouraged to think and stuff. It was kind of interesting. Kind of feel bad that the schools in US are usually pretty like underfunded and the teachers aren't
Yeah.
treated well though.
Mm-hmm.
When I like went to Taiwan when I was like 10, I remember like the first thing I remember, it was like in elementary school. I went from going to school and then just having to write like creative novels, and then there's teaching us about shapes, like this is a circle, this is a triangle. And I came to Taiwan, I went to elementary school, and the first thing they had us do was like, okay students, do you all remember the like multiply table? I thought you guys should remember it by now. 9 times 9 is 81. And I was like, what? You can multiply?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like just a big culture shock, because in like Asian culture we're like very like math and like, you know, like calculation heavy.
Yeah. I think that that's definitely true from my experience, and it's very math heavy. A lot of rote memorization, I feel. Like would you say?
Just so much.
Yeah. Cuz you did like you came at the end of like at the end of elementary, I guess. You came to Taiwan, and you did like, if I'm not mistaken, ever since then you did like all your education in Taiwan, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And like honestly, I don't like particularly like the way education in Taiwan or like most Asian countries go, because they really reward you remembering like exactly how the textbook words and says something. If you like deviate even a little, they're like, oh, this is not what the textbook says. Even if your thing is like technically correct, they'll be like, no, it's not what I told you that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
yeah.
It has its benefits though. I can really see like people in Asian countries are usually very like they do math really well because it's very logical. It promotes like logical thinking and like remembering stuff compared to like US. I don't know, it has its pros and cons.
Do you have like any other like memories? Like we were talking about education, but do you have any other memories of like the US, like growing up? Like it could be both good and bad, like just anything that you think about that you have in your mind.
Mostly about like food and stuff, honestly.
I miss
because
the
when
food.
you're
Oh my
that
gosh.
young, you really don't remember that much. It's that you're like, oh, you exist and you eat things and you sleep. But like the food really does like leave some impression. I don't know. People say you like grow your palate before you're 7, and once your palate is kind of there, it doesn't change that much. I definitely like agree to a level, because I feel like I still sometimes crave mac and cheese sometimes. I could really go for some disgusting like $5 mac and cheese right now.
Yeah, I should have brought
like
you some, man, because like I know we can get it at like international markets here in Taiwan, but I should have brought mac and cheese.
Oh, they're so expensive
easy
here.
mac.
Like they cost like 5 times the amount they cost in like US or Canada.
I made mac and cheese by scratch because I thought it was like easier, and it technically is slightly cheaper to just make it by scratch. Like I boiled my own pasta, I made my own cheese sauce. Cheese would be the most expensive thing though. Dairy is not a big thing in Taiwan. So like getting easy access to good cheese is not really a thing in Taiwan. But like I ended up like making my own mac and cheese one night, and it was all right. It was all right. It's not the same thing, but it was all right.
Yeah, it doesn't have whatever magic preservative jumbo orange thing Kraft puts in their thing. It just tastes like, I don't know, it's the taste of childhood.
So you've been living in Taiwan like ever since like the move, right? Like you haven't decided to go back to America. So like, you know, you did like what? You did your middle school here, you did your high school, you did your college. Like what did you study in college?
Well, I studied like mechanical engineering in college. I've definitely been back to US several times. Like I went to US for like a 2 months like exchange program in college. And like I've been there several times just like to meet some friends and like, you know, vacation and stuff. So like yeah, I've been to US since I was a grown up, and it was like it's a cool place. Definitely has pros and cons compared to where I live over here.
But you did your master's here in Taiwan, is that right?
Yep, I did my master's close to home because like honestly my mom kind of like has some stuff and I need to like keep close to them. So I just found a school that's pretty close to my house, and I was like, okay, this is it.
Yeah. if I'm not mistaken, for your master's, you majored in city science. But like, what is that, and like, why did you want to study that? Because you were like an engineer for your time in college.
Well, that kind of plays back to the time I went like abroad when I was in college, because at the
Hmm.
time my friend was in like they were in MIT, like the one in Boston, and they were like doing an exchange program on their city science lab. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to come? We need some people to like help with stuff." And like I was like, okay." So I went to like the city science lab in MIT for like 2 months to like, I guess technically just help them out with stuff and just see what it's like there. Thought it was interesting. And city science pretty much it's under the like architecture, but basically it's how you like implement sensors into like the city or like the house, and
Interesting.
how we gather and use that data. So like we all think about, oh, we can have sensors in the house like temperature and stuff, but what can we do with those temperature data? Like how can you turn like this data into something that's actually usable and that's understandable to the common person? Yeah, so it's
So
mostly about stuff like that.
does that have any like interplay with like city planning and like because like you're studying this, but like does it have anything to do with like city planning or civil engineering?
Kind of, because it plays back to an okay, it's about how you can get these data and how to visualize it and make it
Yeah.
understandable. So once you make the
Hmm.
data understandable, you can give it to the civil engineer people. It's like, okay, now you have
Right.
the data, what's the hottest parts of the city? So they can plan accordingly to like
Right.
have buildings that can better dissipate heat there and stuff. So it plays into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, because like I mean, like cities are for sure like a very important part of society. Like I think that like having like a good, well planned city. I mean, not every city is like that, of course, but like having that like
Yeah.
these issues like transportation, congestion, temperatures, like these things that maybe the average person doesn't know about. Like they're still very important to city planning.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it's mostly about sensors and data and how do we process it, make it visualizable, and then help the city planners plan the city.
Yeah. Do you actually want to do that though, as like as your career, like help with city planning or engineering?
I really don't mind it because personally, I'm just a person that likes to like make stuff and
Yeah.
like help build stuff, so it doesn't really have to be anything specific. I wouldn't mind taking a job out of it, but it's not like I'm like, oh, this is the best thing ever and I really enjoy doing this. It's just something like, okay, I could do that. It's something that's doable.
I had a question about Taichung. I want to like get into that before like asking more questions about city planning because like we didn't really get into Taichung yet. So like that's where you're living in, right? Would you consider that like your hometown?
Definitely. Because like when I came back from the US, I started living in Taichung, and like
Yeah.
I went to Taipei for my university, but I've been living in Taichung like
Oh, really?
all
So
the other times. Yep.
your uni was in Taipei?
Yep, it was Taipei University of Technology or whatever.
NTUT? It's not the
Yeah, and
NTUST, is it?
NTUT. No,
NTUT.
it's
Okay.
NTUT.
Is that the one in like Da'an, or am I thinking of something else?
No, it's the one in Zhongxiao Xingsheng.
Oh, isn't 中校新生 like the blue line? 中校新生.
It's the yellow line.
I
Yep.
think it's yellow blue cross intersection, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Because
think so.
中校新生 is like a transfer station. I was just there. That's why I was just like 2 days ago. I wonder if that's the one where my roommate Xiao Di goes to. I'll have to ask him. But anyway, wow, I didn't know that. I thought you did. I thought you did your university in Taichung. That's why.
Nope, did my master's in Taichung though.
Sure, sure. Going back to Taichung though, can you like describe the city? Because like I think you're probably the first person on the podcast to be from Taichung. So like I guess
Oh,
to our viewers, they probably don't know what Taichung is and what it looks like. Can you describe your city? I guess you can ramble on a little bit if you want to, but it will probably flash pictures of Taichung or something on the screen. But can you like describe your city? Like what's there to do? What do you like? What do you dislike?
sure. I mean, Taichung is basically the city in the middle of Taiwan, and it's like concave because we have like mountains all around us. And
Hmm.
honestly, I think it's a really good place to live, but it's not amazing if you're just here for if you're like a tourist and like here
Right,
for like
right.
sightseeing and stuff. But it's like definitely very livable because like like we have mountains all around stuff. So like Taiwan has like a lot of hurricane issues or typhoon, and
Right.
like when the typhoons come, they always hit the mountains and then they like get very weak. And we don't get a lot of rain like Taipei. We don't get as hot as like Kaohsiung. So I
Exactly.
think like weather wise, it's like one of the most like pleasant places
Hmm.
on Taiwan you can be. Uh, Living convenience wise, it's like one step below Taipei, but we're still pretty dense. But yeah, there's a lot of like food here. For food
Yeah.
wise, definitely it's like really good because like for whatever reason, Taichung people really like hot pot and barbecue. So that's the two thing that's just like everywhere in Taichung. You can't walk like 100 feet without hitting a hot pot or a barbecue place. They're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
everywhere.
I've been to Taichung like a couple of times. I definitely need to do like a food tour, like maybe with you. Just take us around like Taichung, like maybe a weekend I can find some time to hang out with you and just do like a food based tour. So like hit up some places like specifically restaurants, maybe try not to get too full in one session and kind of like go hit like a bunch of restaurants or like night markets or something.
Yeah, sure. I could bring you to all the like actually good barbecue or hot pot places because you
Yeah,
can encounter the bad ones because there's like on
right.
like weekends there's so much people. So even if you're a bad hot pot place, people will still come because all the good places are full.
Yeah.
Yeah, they charge you the same, but the food just isn't as good.
I also think Taichung is like, from my understanding, it's like slightly less expensive to live in compared to Taipei because I mean it's like a smaller city, and I'm guessing like there's less people that live there. I know a few people from Taichung, not too many, but I know a few people, and I think they all kind of like it there. Yeah.
Yeah, living expense wise, it's like one step below Taipei, but I think higher than Kaohsiung. So it's
Oh,
like
really?
the in between. Yep. But it's
Sure.
really nice to live because like, lots of food, decent like transportation. Again, something between Taipei and Kaohsiung because we still have MRT, but just not that much people use it because we can like scoot to most places.
Yeah, and also I think it's like not as extensive as Taipei, so like I think it's like isn't like is it like a the MRT system or is it not? See, I thought it was
Oh,
like a
no,
C
no.
shape.
Currently our MRT system is like a single line. Like in
Right,
Taipei
right.
it's like a spider web, or in Taichung it's like one line.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's not even like a full circle yet, right? Like it's not
Nope.
like a connected ring, so it's like yeah, but I think like there are plans to keep expanding the lines, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if they'll actually go through with them because the issue with people in Taichung is we're so used to using our scooters to literally
Yeah.
everywhere that people don't use the MRT much anyways. If you go onto the MRT, there's a high chance it's going to be empty, or at least
Oh,
not that many people using it.
yeah, yeah. Like I think it just doesn't go to enough places that are desired locations, I guess. But I mean, that's what I'm trying to say about like for foreigners who, can't ride scooters, I think like they would just have to take the bus at that point.
Yeah, true. Well, the bus system is kind of decent. I would say the bus system is better than the one in Taipei because the one in Taipei is very confusing. They have a lot of these
Agreed.
buses that are like they don't go full circle all the time. Sometimes it's called like 区间车. It like I don't know. It's just confusing to me. I think the bus system in Taichung is like slightly less confusing.
Yeah, yeah. I even I don't understand the Taipei bus system. Like I don't even memorize the routes. I just check Google Maps. Like okay, which bus number can get me here? Okay, that's it. I don't even memorize like the route. I just know the number and I just know the station. I was like okay, I guess I get off. But I mean I take the MRT to 90% of the places that I need to get to. Well, again, I live in Taipei, so the MRT is more extensive. So like, yeah, the bus system, like, I'm not a fan of the Taipei bus system myself.
Yeah, the MRT in Taipei is just too good. It's like you pretty much don't need to even own a scooter in Taipei. You just use the MRT
Yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. That's one of the biggest reasons why like I moved to Taiwan. I think we were talking about this like a few days ago. Like, imagine a world like for our viewers back in the states, like imagine a world where like you're not paying for like car insurance and you're not paying for like inspections and oil changes and whatever. You don't need to worry about like getting home. Well, I mean, as long as you can get home before the MRT closes, but you don't have to worry about like parking. You don't have to worry about like traffic. I mean, you have to worry about foot traffic, but you don't have to worry about like, car traffic. So you're not like stuck in the road or whatever. That's the kind of world that I live in right now. And like, it's kind of spoiled me. Like everyone who comes to Taipei, like just gets spoiled by good public transit.
Yeah, it's so good. Like it's gotta be one of the best cities with like public transit in the world. There's
Yeah,
gotta be
yeah,
not much places that have better public transit than Taipei. The MRT system,
yeah.
it's like the biggest thing is like it's cheap and it's extensive. I've used some public
Correct.
transit in the US before and it all costs so much. Like you
Yeah.
can use the train, but it's like oh, it's like $60 and it's like, huh?
Well, that might be for like a pass, right? Like, is $60? Is that like a one-way thing, or is that like a pass for the day?
It depends on how long the train is and which line you're going to.
Oh,
I haven't
interesting.
never been there, but apparently in like Europe, the train system is also pretty bad because they have these issues of like train tracks not matching up and stuff. But like,
I've heard good things about the public transit in Germany, though. I'm not sure about the train system, but I heard good things about like Germany overall. But I'm not sure about like other European countries.
yeah, Germany is probably like the best city wise though. I've heard a lot of people rave about their like city design and like
Yeah,
transit system and like public housing stuff in Germany. Though I
yeah,
also have one friend that's from Germany that's like, no, they're all wrong. It actually sucks here.
yeah, yeah.
But I
I
don't
heard
know if
about
he's an
that. Yeah,
accurate information or
yeah.
he's just like,
What's like top two or three places that you have to visit when you go to Taichung, and then like maybe we could move on to other topics, but like just any place. It could be like a landmark, a restaurant, or whatever. Like what's like top three things you got to do if you go to Taichung for like the first time?
top three things, honestly, if you're into food, just go look up reviews and go to the three highest like hot pot and barbecue places.
Hmm.
And if you're not into food, if you're into mountains, go to like Taichung or something, and then you can like get a very good like mountain view. And if you're into like lakes and stuff, we have Sun Moon Lake. That's also pretty decent around there.
Oh
You can
yeah.
like rent a bicycle around there, like take a bicycle around the lake.
How far is Sun Moon Lake from Taichung? Because like I only been to Sun Moon Lake one time, and it was a long time ago. Like how far would it be?
Uh, honestly, it's usually like 40 minutes or so car ride distance from my remembrance. I could be remembering wrong though.
Sure,
But
sure,
something around that time, usually.
sure. We appreciate you talking about Taichung. Hopefully, see you. If there's time in the future, or if one day Taichung will ever get a FurCon, you will probably see me and Burger.
Maybe someday. People are talking about it because they're saying
Yeah,
it's like the closest place for both people in the south and in the north to come.
exactly. Yeah, like I have to. Like I think I would have to spend like a one-way HSR ticket to Kaohsiung is like 1,000 something NTD from
Yeah.
Taipei, but like to Taichung it's like 600 700, which is like half the cost, which is really good. Like it's like it's not too pricey, it's not too cheap. And then I think like Taichung itself is like, I mean, because there's already Tea Party in Kaohsiung, and then there's Infernity in Danshui slash Taipei. So it's like I think Taichung could, I mean, it could be a thing. I don't know. Who knows? maybe there's like people already planning that, but they just can't tell us.
Maybe I'll host my own FurCon.
Yeah, Jting
I'll
Con.
just rent out a room and like only 50 people allowed and then
Yeah,
cram 50 people into one room.
into yeah. Who knows? I mean, yeah. I mean, that could be a thing. What I want to get into in this next section is more about like this is probably the part that everyone wants to know about is like you making protogen suits, because I think like you are probably like even outside of Taiwan, you are probably someone who is like one of the most famous protogens out there, if I'm allowed to say. So like what got you into like protogens in the first place?
Yeah, it's honestly it's kind of like a chicken and an egg question. It's
Okay.
not like I got to protogens and then I decided to make one. Honestly, at the time I was like working at a place, then they had a vacuum former, and it was more like I had this vacuum former and I was like, okay, what can I make with a vacuum former? And I was like, I just got into like the furry fandom online stuff at the time, and I saw some like pictures of protogens, like, oh, that's a furry thing. And then I went into like, okay, that looks like something that can be actually made on this machine. So I experimented a lot with the vacuum form. I was like, I failed like gotta be like 10, 15 times. But sometimes when I get into a mood, like I don't even want the final product that much. I just want to know if it's possible. So eventually I got it to a place where I was like, oh, I can actually make this thing. And I made my first Progen suit. The video is actually still on YouTube. Like it's like a silver colored one. That was actually my first Progen, and that was okay. I made it, and then like honestly, I just put it in my room for the longest time, and I randomly decided to make a video like a year into that, and like okay, people actually think it's cool after I put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it started.
To kind of take a step back though, like what do you define a protogen is? Like what is a protogen?
Well, it's a closed species, and I may say something wrong about closed species because I'm not in the closed species community. But it's basically a closed or slash semi-open species made by Cool Koinu, or I think they're like called like Malice Risu. I don't know what they're called now, but they're on Twitter. And I think they have their own site about like protogens coming up. But basically, it's a like semi-open species. So the creator basically made like the guide on what constitutes a protogen and how can you make your own and what limits they can have while still being called a protogen. Some people don't like that there's like very clear instructions / boundaries of what can be called a protogen. They're like, I'm gonna make my own and add 17 years to it. And I'm just like, it's whatever. I just don't want to like make someone upset while making my own character, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically the original lore for the protogens. It's like they're like a sci-fi species, and they're actually like furry dragon creatures. And there was like primogens in the story. There's like lore, and they took these furry dragon creatures. They kind of cut their head off and then replaced them with like nanite particle visors. So that's why they have this like electronic looking head. They're technically still like mammals and have like a digestive system inside. But yeah, it's only the face that's like electronics.
It's fucking crazy because, like, I mean, it's not fan fiction, right? Like, it's something like, it's like a fantasy setting that's not based off of like a show or a TV thing. And it's like, you create this species, or whoever the creator, what's the guy's name again? The creator of the...
They're actually a girl. They're fairly cool. I think I've talked to them like once or twice. Sure. They're like Cool Koinu, I think that's their name.
What's Cool Koinu?
Yeah.
Could you spell that for me? Just so I get like.
I may spell it wrong, but I think it's like COOL and then KIONU. I think that's how they call themselves.
Oh, okay. Koinu. Yeah. Cool Koinu. Like it's just. I mean, I think that's just like that's fascinating to have like this person, you know, like again, like creating like a world kind of thing and like a lore for something that is just like pure fantasy based, and then people like taking that idea and making, you know, their own, I guess, like quote unquote personas or OCs from it. But it's like a worldwide phenomenon, right? Like it's not limited to just like one country or like one person. And like people around the world can like make their own OCs based off of this like fantasy character that's like quote unquote furry adjacent, or maybe like semi furry, or maybe it is totally furry, depending on, you know, what your definition of furry is. And an interview thing for the future. I mean, I don't know where they're from. Maybe they're from America, but I have no idea. But
they're from Australia, from my understanding.
Gotcha. Man, we could probably have a huge crossover episode in the future, invite a bunch of protogens, but we'll see. Anyway, I think like for you though, specifically, like you actually had like, I guess curiosity, maybe if I'm allowed to say, to like go ahead and like create something like physical. Like you like working with your hands, I think, and like you created like your first like protogen suit. When was it actually? Was it like back like a few years ago or like 5 years ago?
It's gotta be like 2019, 2020. That was the time where I created my first protogen. That was about the time where I really got into the fandom stuff, and I was like, this is cool. It's kind of like what I like, which is like electronics and like making stuff. And also what I like, which is like, you know, the whole anthro furries thing. And it's like, ooh, it's kind of best of both worlds. So I kind of made a character around then.
I know that you have like a background in mechanical engineering, but like were you self-taught for like electrical and computer engineering? Because I would imagine like the visor, that requires like knowledge of like electronic components. So like is that something you studied in college, or was that something you like self-studied like from the internet?
Honestly, it's half, but it's mostly self-studied, but also
Mhm.
because like in the modern era of Taiwan, all the pure mechanical engineering schools pretty much they figured out that their students are going out and pure mechanical engineering jobs just aren't doing that well nowadays. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
kind of like teach you electrical engineering stuff too, so you don't like struggle too much after getting out of school.
Right,
So like
right.
part of our curriculum was definitely some electrical engineering stuff, but most of it was just me being interested in like electronics and stuff, and like, ooh. So like I'm not an amazing coder since I mostly just gotta like, teach my own on how to do it and definitely
Right.
not do stuff by the books type. But yeah, I could do it half decently.
So like I'm just like looking at the videos, like I'm kind of like scrolling through, and like I see like Protogen mouse sync test. Was that your first head, your first Protogen head, or like the one from 3 years
Well,
ago, or was that like a second one, or?
the black one was actually the second one because honestly,
Mm,
the first one I made kind of for myself. It was just like, oh, it's something that I could make and I like to make stuff. And the second one was because like after I posted the first one on YouTube, it was like very well received. So I was like, oh, okay, people actually like this. So I guess I'll make another one and try and like improve upon a lot of stuff that I feel like
yeah.
was pretty jank on the first one because honestly the first one was really jank. A lot of the parts like because it's hard to create something that you actually wear on your head and can sustain like an actual human inside without the human feeling suffocated. And the
Right,
first
right, right.
one like really cramped around your face and didn't have amazing ventilation. So I was like, oh, okay, gotta
Yeah.
improve that.
I mean, we're kind of like basically we're kind of getting into like what I wanted to ask, which was like, how do you go about to even create the Protogen head? Like, if you're allowed to say, like what do you do first? What do you do second? Like, from start to finish, like, how do you actually create a head?
Well, at the time there really wasn't much info online. Okay, how would you create a Trojan? So I kind of had to
Yeah.
like, improvise on that. The only thing I really was certain at the time is the visor had to be vacuum formed because if you do it other ways, it would be like too expensive. You can't use glass. But basically, brief exclamation on what vacuum forming is you take a
Right.
sheet of plastic, you press it onto something, and then you suck vacuum downwards so it forms the shape to the outer contour of the object. So you get something that's the shape of the Progen visor, you press a piece of heated plastic on it, and then you vacuum it until it's shaped like the visor. That was the part I was really certain on how to do. The other parts I just kind of had to like kind of think of ways to do it. At the time, like because I was in mechanical engineering, I knew how to like draw mechanical drawings.
Right.
So I imported a fake dummy head, and I used the dummy head and I scaled it to my real head, and I started to model parts around it that would shape like essentially the Progen's like fins and the helmet portion, and then I had to like make a thing to connect the electronics to, and basically have everything just modeled ready. And at the time, 3D printing was actually something that I did a lot. And at the
Oh,
time, 3D printing was pretty big, and I was really into it. So I was like, okay, I gotta 3D print this. And I was like, easy peasy. So most parts were like just 3D printed, and then sanded, and then worked on, basically.
interesting. Yeah. Do you
Yep.
have like any like again, I haven't really looked at all your videos, but do you actually have like was it like WIP like work in progress shots that you could share with us in the future? Like maybe we can put that in post, like of you building the suit, or no?
Uh, I'll need to look into it, but honestly, probably not. I maybe have a couple pictures like before the furring process because I
Hmm.
had to get pictures on the direction of the fur before I fur it. But when I'm into something and I'm making it, I rarely take pictures. I know it's a bad
Sure.
habit of mine, but I'm so into doing it that I forget to make any sort of documentation for it.
And then I'm guessing that like people could probably just refer to like what the video called "How to Make a Protogen Part 1." I'm guessing that's like what people can like refer to if they want to get started.
Kind of. I should really, if I ever go
I mean,
back to
that's four
YouTube,
years
I should
ago,
really
so
expand on that. Because
yeah.
honestly, like, YouTube is another big thing on its own, and I kind of don't like that you have to be forced to make the algorithm happy. It's
Right,
kind of
right.
fun on its own, but I just really don't like to be forced into like having to choose for the algorithms. So I'm like, I'll get back
Sure,
to
sure.
that someday.
So like that series, it says part one. So is it just part one and only part one? So is that like an abandoned series or?
Maybe I'll make more in the future. I'll put it as
Okay,
postponed for now.
sure, sure, sure. That would be something really cool. Like I think like, if I'm allowed to say, kind of like getting people the knowledge and the know-how to create their own suits, I think is like just a net benefit for everyone, so that anyone around the world could do it. But I mean, like that's kind of cool that you're. Well, I don't know anyone else who makes protogen fursuits, is what I'm trying to say. So like, it's kind of cool to see like the pioneer, right? Like from like 4 something years ago. I'm pretty sure there are other like how-to fursuits like out there, but you're the person that comes to mind when I think of like protogens.
Oh,
A guy
I'm
from
just random
Taiwan.
dude. I'm just random dude that does my own thing. But yeah, like I may get back to the tutorial because I do
Sure.
like to help people on how to make this stuff. But a lot of times when
Right.
I'm trying to do that, I have to keep because stuff like this involves a lot of like technical knowledge, and for most people there's a big gap from if you don't have any technical knowledge at all and you're trying to make this versus if you're already like fairly technical and you're trying to make
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
if you fall into the first group, you may need to actually do a lot of like background learning before you can even start to approach stuff like
Yeah.
coding and like 3D modeling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
definitely
hard
gonna
thing to
be
get
like.
into.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's something that, yeah, you might have to do like a little bit of background research before even like attempting, because it's not as simple as like making like a non-electronic fursuit, right? If it was just a fursuit, then maybe you could just get like a sewing kit, get your fur, get whatever materials you need. But like, you actually need like technical knowledge for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, honestly, even a normal fursuit, I would say, isn't like that beginner friendly of that thing. I wouldn't do
Yeah,
a normal fursuit well that
yeah,
long.
yeah.
It's like drawing, like
Uh
where
huh.
if you
Uh huh.
practice it a lot, you can definitely get good at it regardless of your starting skill level. But if you just start from nothing and you immediately start to draw something, you're definitely gonna make some weird ass looking drawings.
Sure, sure. Props to you for being like one of the first like people in the world maybe to like actually try to attempt like a how-to video. And then like the cool thing is that you're here in Taiwan, like of all places in the world, like like Jting is you know he's from Taiwan. And I think that's like really cool that like Taiwan has like so many creative people and so many like people who are like doing really cool things in the fandom. I had a question here about like boop detection. I think this is like what this is from 2020, I think. First off, like does that require like boop detection? I think like this was one of your videos, and I think like it requires like some coding knowledge. So like, how did you like implement that in your suit?
Well, honestly, once you know the basics of codings and electronics, doing stuff like that isn't a lot harder than doing stuff that doesn't involve that. Once you know how to get LEDs running and all
Yeah.
electrical systems hooked up, it's just a matter of like adding something on top to that and then making it work.
Hmm.
It's kind of like if you're already really good at drawing characters, you're gonna be good at drawing other stuff. You're gonna at least be decent at drawing other stuff too, since you already
Hmm.
know all the basics of the things.
Is that like
So
all like
yeah,
coded, like the boop detection stuff? Is that like code basically? Is that like programming?
yeah.
Okay,
Basically, the
okay.
program would go something like this: like you would have a sensor. I used an IR
Hmm.
sensor, but basically, once something's close enough to the sensor would send an electrical signal, and then you
Yeah.
would like program it to do something based on that electrical signal. But it's actually not as simple as that because you have to think of a lot of situations where, uh, if you trigger the sensor could actually trigger multiple times or it could trigger for a prolonged time, and you need to program to account for all those situations. Else it'll misbehave or your thing won't be like functional properly.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
How does it feel like to actually fursuit in the suit? Because you mentioned like the very first version was like very like cramped in your head, but like, now I'm assuming it's like slightly more comfortable and in like in the later version. So like how does it feel like to put on the head to like to wear, like I'm guessing you have like a tail, right? Like I think I looked at one of the videos and you have like a tail, I think. So like how does that like feel though, like nowadays?
Well, before I actually got like a normal fursuit, because I have a cat one now, I
Okay.
actually didn't know what it felt like to fursuit like a normal head. I only had the knowledge of using a Protogen one. But now that I can actually compare, I can definitely tell you that despite their looks, Protogen heads are a lot more comfortable in general than normal ones, and they're a lot
Hmm.
more cooler and have better vision mostly. But it will very depend on the maker of the head and how
Yeah.
the insides are designs, because the thing with Progen heads, it's kind of like strapping on like a VR headset.
Yeah.
Where the pros would be you have something strapped to your head, so you can have like a fan in there easily, and you'll have good vision because you're just looking through like a visor basically. So it's kind of like sunglasses. But the cons would be you have essentially a giant VR headset strapped to your head. So you have something heavy on your head. It's like a little bit heavier than a normal head would be, since
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
solids compared to foam. So I guess it depends on if you can do with like heavy stuff strapped to your head. But in general, I think it's more comfortable than a normal fursuit. It's kind of like a big helmet. Those like big bicycle helmets. It kind of
Yeah.
feels similar to that.
Or like how do you actually see through, like I know this is a dumb question, but it's because like I've never seen it IRL, but like how do you actually see through the like the head?
Well, it's actually people ask me that question a lot actually. It's like, okay, how do you see through? It's black. Well, the answer is it's the exact same way you see through a sunglass or a snow goggle. It's
Oh
because
wow.
the surface is tinted and it's reflective. So when you look from the outside, it looks like a reflection. It doesn't look like you can't see inside. But if you're the person inside, you can see perfectly outside, except it's tinted. So it'll look
Interesting.
like a little bit bluish or purplish to the user, but it actually is pretty good vision since you like see directly outside.
So your vision is not obscured by like eyes. Like you don't need eyes, quote unquote. It's like the whole like visor thing, like the plastic part, I guess, is like that's your vision, right? That's like your field of view.
Yeah, again, it depends on the how the head is designed, but for mine, the top part is all vision. So
Right, right.
only the part that's like a little bit forward and bottom to you would be obstructed by like the electronics. But if you look upward, it's actually like the vision is like really good.
Sure, sure.
I have some photos of how it looks like. I put a camera in it so you can look from inside out, and I
Wow,
took some
that's cool.
pictures of how it looks to like be wearing the suit. I can share some of those for you on how the world looks like.
Protovision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
looks
really cool.
blue.
Oh, really? The world is blue. Yeah. Yeah.
It's because I used a dark blue tint.
When I think of like the furry fandom though, like at least in Taiwan, I kind of think that a lot of people like the kimono style suits a lot though. But like here you are with like a protogen suit. Like I'm guessing, you said the person is from Australia, like the creator is from Australia, which is a Western country. So it's like, do you think that your suit is like well received in Taiwan? Like what do people think about your suit? If you can talk a little bit about that.
Honestly, most people that saw a Progen here are like, "What the hell is that? That's so cool!"
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
mostly the suits here you see are like kimono styles. Actually, toonie style suits that you see very common in the US is actually like less common here. People mostly have like
Right.
the kimono styles with like the giant bubbly eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like them. I wanted one, but like
Oh
they're
yeah.
like super cute. And compared to that like super cute vibe, Peruvians are more like serious, they're like cool, and I think Asians really like the like cool aesthetic, I think. They're like, wow, that
Yeah.
looks so different and like edgy. But yeah, like usually it's like very well received and people are like, wow, I've never seen that before. But yeah, people do not know where it's from. People are just like, is that a Digimon or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. Like have you ever been like public suiting before with the protogen, and like how was that like?
Well, basically, I would not dare to go out in public and suit alone, personally, just because, like, I feel like I know it doesn't really matter, but I have the fear of being like judged by others. They're gonna think I'm weird. I know it doesn't matter in the end, but I just
Sure.
personally wouldn't want to go out alone in my suit because I don't know. I just feel like weird about it.
Have you went suiting with someone else? I guess I should say, like someone as your handler.
Oh, definitely. Like when I was in cons, I went to like the tea party in the Persian fursuit.
Oh, I meant like in the public though. Oh, so you haven't done like public suiting like at all?
No. Like honestly, I'm too shy a person to do that, and I feel like I
Oh,
would
okay,
just
okay.
feel awkward interacting with people that don't know what this is. They'd be like,
Yeah,
a Pokemon.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
and I'd
totally
be
see
like,
that.
I'm Pikachu?
Oh god. I just have to ask a quick question. What are your thoughts about like Beast Fantasia then? Because I think they implement like 3D printing in their fursuits nowadays. Like when they first started, I don't think they did, but now they do that. So like, have you ever like reached out to them to like say hi or to like learn from them or yeah? What are your thoughts about them?
I think their work is like fantastic. Their work is like amazing, and I would totally get something from them if there was ever the chance, but I don't think I'd be able to afford it all. But yeah, like I'm not personally friends or know anyone from there, but I've heard good stuff about them, and their
Yeah,
stuff is really cool. The reason you would want to use a 3D printed Versu head compared to like a normal foam head usually is like, you can do like a little bit customized depending on the person,
yeah,
and you can like have these like ventilation holes. You can have it shaped like a certain way you want it, and you can easily make like edits depending on the individual. It has its benefits compared to
yeah.
like normal foam heads, but foam also has its benefits, honestly, because if you just take a foam fursuit head and then throw it at the wall, it'll be fine. But if you do the
Right.
same with a 3D printed head, bad things are gonna happen to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like technology is definitely getting better, and like the first three part is definitely like getting more interesting, and more modern technology can be used in it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really cool because like the aid of like technology to create something interesting. And of course, like, looking at your suit, yeah, you have like you can program your head, right? You can do creative things with your head with the aid of technology. That's why I brought up Beast Fantasia, because I think like they're doing something similar. They don't I mean they're not making protogens. I mean, who knows? But I mean, they are still using technology to aid them in creating something really like unique. So props to Beast Fantasia and props to you. You mentioned that like over on Telegram we were talking about this like a day ago, I think, that you were like running your own business. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, basically, most of my income now like is from Etsy. I basically run an Etsy shop
Hmm.
that sells protogen parts and other things I design. Like I have like a lollipop fursuit currently, and I have some like protogen merch up there. But basically, it's mostly for, it's hard to get into protogen making because you need a lot of tools. You need like a vacuum former, and you need like a
Hmm.
3D printer and knowledge how to operate and design all the parts. And selling kits simplifies people that ability, so you don't need to make your own or design your own. So people can just build a protogen based on something that's already pre-made for them. So yeah, that's mostly how I run my store now. I used to take
Sure.
commissions, and I do plan on taking more in the future, maybe sometime early next year. But honestly, taking commission just kind of like takes a toll on my like mental health, because like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
lot of like worrying that, okay, you're building this thing, will they be satisfied with it, will it get damaged, and like just doing something for work long enough eventually like diminishes your like love for it, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel the same way about voice acting. Like if I overwork myself, then it doesn't, like, it takes the fun out of voice acting. I feel can be fun in short bursts, but like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's something that everyone who, like, we have a hobby, we have a passion, we want to monetize it. It's just trying to find a balance, I think, so that you don't burn yourself out in your passion, in your hobby. But I think for you, for your business, you're not really taking commissions per se. Like, you're not really taking commissions to make a protogen suit. I think you're selling, like you said, you're selling kits, right? So I guess like the kit is
Yeah.
like all the materials needed to make a suit, or to make a head, I should say.
Well, the kit would be like buying a fursuit foam base. You're buying like a protogen base, so
Hmm.
you have like all the basic materials to make a protogen. You still need to like paint it your own color,
Yeah,
finish it, and then assemble it, fur it, install electronics. But the
yeah.
kit is here to make things simple for you, so you can like make it even if you don't have like extensive electronics and like building knowledge, basically.
Yeah, I like that idea though. I like that idea of again like giving people like a chance to make something of their own and giving people to create a character that they want to see come to real life. I don't know if many people sell like fursuit making kits, so having like protogen making kits like that sounds like really cool to me.
Yeah, like people do sell like what's it call it fursuit base like head bases. They're like pre-made, so you can just fur
Hmm.
them and make them your own. But yeah, but my idea of selling the kits was because like honestly at the time I was make trying to make tutorials, but I just couldn't find a way to bridge that gap between because a lot of people they come to me and they say like, oh, I don't have a clue about electronics and 3D modeling, but I want to make my own protogen. What do I do? And honestly,
Right.
I really don't want to break their spirits, but I try to guide them in some directions where they can learn
Yeah.
like modeling and electronics. But usually people get disencouraged after they see how much is needed in order to actually do this. So like, okay,
Right.
how can I simplify that thing for others and,
Hmm.
maybe make a business out of it?
I think you're doing the right thing. I think you can't always hold people's hands, and you're a human being too. You have your own life and you're trying to do your own thing. So like having like a kit and like the basic knowledge is probably the way to go. I mean, I can't wait to watch your like future how-to videos if they ever come out. I think that'd be kind of cool.
It may
Yeah,
be
like
someday.
so I mean I'm not an engineer, so that's why like I think this whole thing is fascinating. Like I have like basic computing knowledge. I did IT work for a little while, but like I'm not an engineer. I have like basic programming knowledge. So like seeing how it all like fits together to create something like creative, I think is really cool though.
Yeah. I try to like help people make their own thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we really just have like one last question for the interview. And again, thank you so far for staying with us and for indulging us about protogens and protogen making, and hopefully like maybe see you in a future episode if we invite more protogens. But the last question we have here is where do you see yourself in the next few years? Like, do you see yourself like working in like the public sector? Do you want to like expand your business? Do you want to change countries or cities? So like just tell us what your plans are.
You know what? I've asked a lot of friends on like, okay, what does it feel to actually be out there and working for someone
Hmm.
versus like kind of doing your own thing? And most people will give me the response of like, don't come, do your own thing if you can. But yeah, I feel like I'm gonna try and build up my own thing and see if I can get to a place where it's just I'm comfortable with it. And then you know what? If all else fails, I'll go out and become a cog in the machine and
Sure, sure.
submit to our corporate overlords. I feel like I can do decent both ways, but I kind of do want to try and see if my own thing works out for now.
Like your own like Etsy business.
Yeah, like my own
Yeah.
business and like taking some commissions and like
Right, right.
making my own stuff to sell. As for where would I want to be physically, in the short term, definitely I'll stay in Taiwan because like Taiwan is just honestly it's a good place.
Yeah.
Sometimes you encounter people that lived here their whole lives. They'll be like, "This is a bad place. Our politicians suck. It's the worst place. China's gonna kill us." But like, I actually think it's a very decent place to live, and I honestly wouldn't mind living here. But also like the allure of U.S. and Canada or like the Western countries versus here is like it just feels more open to live in
Yeah.
like the U.S. because everything's way less cramped. And sometimes I
Yeah.
do miss the feeling of that. So I don't know. Maybe in the future I may think about migrating to U.S. or Canada depending on
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah. Well, at that point, like, if you do that, you do have to get a job because otherwise, like, you're just a tourist, right? So I don't know. I don't know how that would work out with your fursuit business, but I think like
Technically, I can migrate to the U.S. willy-nilly because I'm technically an American. I
oh
still
right
have a
right yeah
passport.
yeah I forgot about that. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I'm surprised. Like so like. Is there anything that you had to do to like maintain that then? Because like you're born in the U.S., but like I'm assuming you also have like ROC citizenship. Is that right?
Yep. You can have both, and the U.S. really doesn't care, but there's a stipulation. As long as you pay your taxes.
Right, right, right,
Because
right.
US is very anal about like everyone properly reporting their taxes and stuff. And if you
Yeah,
live in Taiwan, you still need to all the banks will actually communicate to the US like all the like assets you have. So if you have
correct,
too
correct.
much income, they will ask for tax from you.
Yeah, yeah. I do recall that because I mean I'm an American and I do believe like if you hit a certain brackets like yeah well, exactly as you just said if you hit a certain bracket you do need to start like paying taxes like to the US government even if like you're working and even if you're like you're already being taxed in Taiwan and you know you're paying like the Taiwanese government taxes or whatever because you know because I want to work in Taiwan so I'm assuming I would be taxed obviously. I mean for whatever reason if I suddenly make too much money then yeah the US government will probably like you know ask to tax me or they'll require it I should say.
The U.S. tax system is also so much more confusing than the Taiwanese one. The
Oh
Taiwanese
really?
one pretty much is like you go to their website and they'll tell you how much you owe them. Like, is this correct? And you said yes, this is correct. While the
Oh
U.S.
wow.
one is like, tell me in paper all of your tax things, and then they'll be like, nope, that was wrong, and then you need to resubmit everything. It's like, ooh, I hate the U.S. tax system.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more confusing and I think like I mean for a variety of reasons which I don't really want to get into right now, but like yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know, US salaries are also higher. So I mean of course the cost of living is balanced by that. Like you also taking that into account. But like you know, higher salaries are definitely like a thing in the US and so that's something that you would gain. But wherever, basically, what I'm trying to say is like wherever you go, though, I mean, I think you'll succeed. I think you have like a really
Oh,
good head on your shoulders. Like you're a smart guy. You're more spontaneous this time than the last time we talked. Like more extroverted by a little bit. I mean, in a good way. In a good way. And it's like I still can't believe like we got to physically meet because to me like you were always someone who like I knew about your name and what you did, but it was like so surreal getting to see you at that like at that furry well dinner at that furry dinner thing last year.
yeah, it was really nice meeting you too. Like, to me, I'm just a random person. I really don't think that highly of myself,
You're
and
just
I,
cat. You're just cat.
yeah, I'm just cat. So, like very introverted. So like, I'm just gonna go back to my cat hole after this.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, I'm really thankful of you thinking that highly of me. Personally, I think I'm
Yep.
just dude A, dude B. But yeah, it's very nice like meeting you too.
At this point in time, we really just have like the social media shout out where like you can just like verbally say where we can find you on social media. So where can we find you?
Well, you can find me at JtingF, so that would be JTING and then F on the amazingx.com, formerly Twitter.
Are you on Blue Sky yet or no?
No, I don't know. Running social media pages are tiring. I try to keep Twitter running, but sometimes I'm like, more?
Sure, sure.
I may migrate someday, but I'm just currently still figuring out what social medias I want to run.
Yeah. So
But
you
yeah.
have X, and then your YouTube is.
YouTube would be, I think it's still at JTingF, and my Telegram is also at JTingF, in case you
Mhm.
wanted to poke me about stuff or whatever.
Yeah. Patreon is also JTingF, like slash JTingF. Your Etsy is was it
My Etsy is
JF
actually JF
Randoms?
Randomness, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Even though you're not that random. Well, maybe you are, who knows, but
Maybe I am.
yeah. All right. And is that it?
Yep, think
Awesome.
so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, JT, for being on this episode. And I think like a lot of people will probably be interested in knowing about your background and stuff. Like not just in Taiwan but around the world. I think I had like a great time talking to you. And again, like I'm not an engineer, like I said, so I'm just super fascinated by the things you do.
Oh, thank you too for talking to me. Like, it's rare that people find my weird nerd stuff interesting.
Yeah, we'll let you know when the episode gets released. I mean, obviously, if people are listening right now, they'll know. But yeah, we'll let you know about the release schedule and everything. Thank you so much. So this has been another episode of the Fox and Burger podcast. I'm Michael the Matcha Fox, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye bye.
Goodbye.